Like, don't you think I could be the greatest sports journalist ever?
Mm-hmm. Just give you a chance. You ain't been in shoulder.
What is up, you guys? It is another week of the Lachelle Show, and I am Lachelle Smith. Listen, if you haven't been paying attention to everything that has been going on in the NBA playoffs, we are about to talk about it. This episode is dedicated to the conference finals. 4 teams left, and 2 teams will be advancing to the NBA Finals. Everything is getting crazy right now in the playoffs, and we're going to talk about what we just saw in the conference semifinals and what to expect in this conference finals from these teams. We also got some NBA updates. There are some new hirings and some new places and some new coaches, and we also have a 2-time MVP on our hands, and we have to talk about what that narrative means going forward in the playoffs, especially when these players start getting a lot more success and how fans can sometimes turn on you. So let's get ready to talk about the NBA playoffs and everything that's going on. First, we have to congratulate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Oklahoma City Thunder guard just added another MVP to his trophy case. He was named the 2025-2026 Kia NBA MVP. And let me tell you, Shai is in rare air. It's one thing to be a 2-time MVP. It's another thing to be a back-to-back MVP, and he is the 14th ever to do it. When we are talking about rare air, when we specifically talk about the era of the 2000s, he is joining Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, who is a 2-time back-to-back MVP, Tim Duncan, and Steve Nash as back-to-back winners. And it is a big deal when we are talking about what Shai has been able to do. We could go over all the things and stats of what Shai did this season, but he really has been elite. He has been special despite what narratives trying to say. He joined Michael Jordan as the only guards with at least 30 points per game on 50+% field goal shooting in 4 straight years. He also became the only guard in NBA history to average 30 points per game on 55% plus shooting. He led the league in total clutch points, had the highest plus minus in the NBA at plus 788 by more than 100 points. He set the NBA record for most consecutive 20-point games, breaking Wilt Chamberlain's record. He also became the first player since Wilt Chamberlain's 1963-64 season with 20 points in every regular season game with a minimum of 50 games. It is well deserved. The funny thing about the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander conversation is I feel like, you know what they say, everyone loves rooting for an underdog until the underdog starts winning too much. And I feel like that's what the fans have done. I am not here to say that the refs don't call a different type of foul for the OKC Thunder, but he's an MVP. He's a back-to-back MVP. It comes with perks. He's going to get certain calls that maybe other guys around the league aren't going to get. The thing that I think that has flown under the radar for so many people is that Shai has been having a great whistle. If you go back and look at his stats from throughout the years, he's been able to get to the free throw line. That's not really a new thing for him. I think it just intensified itself because people started paying attention to it more because obviously he started winning. But if we're talking about what he's been able to do in terms of getting to the free throw line, he's been able to do that. I know people might not like to hear that, but when we're talking about a guy who's averaging 31 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 6.6 assists, and shooting 55% from the field, that is elite. And especially elite when you have a team who's the number 1 seed in the West and now are going to the Western Conference Finals. It's also funny when you hear people say, oh, I didn't expect Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to end up like this. And if you go back and listen to the story of when Doc Rivers trades SGA from the Los Angeles Clippers, there's an anecdote about Sam Cassell, who was an assistant coach at the time and played a big factor in helping develop SGA into the player that he is, because they kind of played very similar in that guard position and really helped him while he was with the Clippers, really refining his skills. They trade SGA and Sam Cassell calls Doc Rivers infuriated. He's like, you just don't understand what you just did. You just gave the Thunder an assassin. And Sam Cassell goes on to say, either this is going to bite us in the butt and he's going to prove why you shouldn't have done that, or we're going to sit there and be vindicated in this. But Sam Cassell was adamant that he was certain that this was going to come back and bite the Clippers in the butt, and he has been right. He has been truthful. Now we have seen everything Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been able to do, and it's just going to keep growing. So I don't like the narrative of everybody not liking Shai now. I think his game ethically, when we're talking about the mid-range, kind of can do whatever he wants on the floor in terms of just getting to the basket. We're not talking about a super athletic and huge guy. It really is pure skill, and he just is somebody who's a straight bucket. I mean, even if you don't like the free throws, and I can understand that some of the calls are bad, some of these fouls are fouls, you know? And if you look at the free throws he's been able to average from around 6 free throws per game to about 9 free throws per game in the last 5 to 6 years, you can't really say that an uptick happened all of a sudden after they started winning. It's kind of been consistent. People just weren't paying attention. So shout out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's going to be exciting to see what the OKC Thunder are able to do in this Western Conference, and we are going to talk about that later in this episode. But we do have more news around the NBA because the New Orleans Pelicans just hired a new head coach. The New Orleans Pelicans are hiring Jamal Mosley as the franchise's new head coach on a 5-year contract. Yes, this is the same Jamal Mosley that was just fired from the Orlando Magic less than a month ago after they gave away that 3-1 lead in the first round to the Detroit Pistons. He did not have to wait long at all. I will say this. Even if you like the hire or not, a black head coach in the NBA being able to get another shot at being head coach that fast is amazing. We did not have that. I feel like the only black coach that was somehow always getting a head coaching job was Doc Rivers. And we see how that's been panning out. So for Jamal Mosley to get another shot at head coach, I think that speaks a lot of volumes of where the league is going in head coaching and what they are looking for. So I am ecstatic that he got another shot at it. For the New Orleans Pelicans, is this a good hire? Yes, I think the Pelicans just want to be a playoff team. And if you look at Jamal Mosley's record, he did get to the Orlando Magic and turn the culture around, and they did become a team that has been to 3 consecutive playoffs. Even if it was them battling in the play-in to get in this year's playoffs, they did also take the Detroit Pistons 3-1 at one point before they gave it all away. So he can build culture. He can work with younger players like a Fears and a Queen that are with the Pelicans, and he's definitely going to make them a defensive-minded team. I was surprised that he was so high on their list because there's so many other organizations out there trying to get head coaches. But for the Pelicans, I can understand why they moved very quickly on this. Some of the reports are saying that it really didn't take long for the Pelicans to start having conversations with him, and that those conversations were really intensified during the NBA Combine in Chicago, where he was able to really get confirmation and talk more about the role and what they are looking for. He also was very high on the list for the Golden State Warriors to be their lead assistant. But if you get another head coaching job, I'm taking the head coaching job over the lead assistant. I'm just being honest with you. So congratulations to Jamal Mosley. I am really excited to see what they're able to do. I do expect the Pelicans to make some trades this offseason, or at least the phones to be ringing for a few guys. Number one on that list is, I think, Trey Murphy. I do believe there are a few teams that are in championship windows now, young teams that need to add more shooters and some veterans that will be calling the Pelicans trying to get some of their pieces, and I think he's very high on that list for them. But shout out to the Pelicans. They got their guy. We're going to see what is in store for the franchise going into this offseason and then in this regular season. But while we're talking about the seasons, we got to talk about the playoffs, because you know that's what you're here for. The conference semifinals have ended, and we now will begin our journey in the conference finals. The Western Conference Finals will have the San Antonio Spurs facing off against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the number 1 and 2 seeds in the West. The most anticipated, excited, well-weighted collision course that we have been waiting for in this series was these two teams right here being able to face off against each other. The San Antonio Spurs might be the only team in the NBA that has gotten the better of the Oklahoma City Thunder throughout the season. They are 4-1 against the Oklahoma City Thunder this season, and I understand season stats don't matter, but it at least gives you a little bit picture that the Spurs can stack up with the Thunder, and this series is automatically going to go 6 or 7. I'd be very shocked if this goes any other way, but I am so excited for this series. It feels like Christmas morning waiting for game 1. On the Eastern side, we have the Eastern Conference Finals. The New York Knicks, who have been waiting for about a week now to see who they are going to be playing, will be playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It looks like the Cavs have been able to finally get that monkey off their back. They haven't been to a conference finals since LeBron James was on that team. So that should tell you how long this gap has been. They have been waiting for this moment, and they have finally arrived to it. Donovan Mitchell finally gets to his first conference finals appearance in his career after having a tough game 7 against the Detroit Pistons. Well, the game 7 wasn't that tough. The series was tough, but game 7 wasn't that tough, and we will talk about that. But get ready for this series. I'm going to go ahead and just plant my flag in the sand right now and tell you who I'm going for. Western Conference Finals, I'm picking the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, that does not mean I'm an OKC hater. I just really like the Spurs right now. I like how their rhythm and they're peaking at the right time. I just love everything about this team right now. So I'm going with the Spurs. I will not be shocked whatsoever if OKC wins. I'm always going to give respect to the defending champs. Can't ever sit there and count them out. I'm just going for the Spurs, and that's okay. I can understand how great the Thunder are while also being like, hey, I think the Spurs are pretty good. They might could win this series. When I'm looking at the Eastern Conference Finals right now, I'm picking the New York Knicks. I am not this 100% Knicks believer, but I can trust that they are peaking at the right time, and it feels very similar to what we saw from the Indiana Pacers last year that really started to peak at the right time. And I feel the same way about the Knicks, and they are battle tested in a lot of ways, just their experience as a team. I know people are going to sit there and say, well, they had an easy route and all this. You can't have an easy route when we were sitting there picking other teams to beat them, because I know I had the 76ers beating them, and I was ready for Boston. Like, I was ready for all these things, okay? So we're not going to sit here and downplay them now, and then people trying to downplay the Hawks. Come on now. There's a lot of teams we felt like could have beat the Knicks, and the Knicks flipped the switch and have been just coasting and rolling since then. I like the Cavs, don't get me wrong, but even though they put on such a great offensive performance in Game 7, I still always question myself saying, why does it wait for y'all to get to Game 7 to perform like that? And it shouldn't have to take that for us to see that from the Cavs, and I still think they have a turnover issue. But we're going to get into the games that we saw in the semifinals, specifically with the San Antonio Spurs and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we will talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons series right now. In the conference semifinals, we had the Minnesota Timberwolves facing off against the San Antonio Spurs, a series that I believe that the Spurs were going to be able to win fairly easy. I actually think that they would have won in 5 if Wemby didn't get ejected in that game for the flagrant foul 2, but they won in 6. And a lot of people felt as though this was going to be a real test for the Spurs, that playoff experience was going to start to show in this series because Minnesota has experience, they don't. And as I said to all of that, I said the Spurs have discipline, though. They are a disciplined team. They are consistent. They can flip a switch. If you hear me say flip a switch, I am basically talking about, say you're watching a game and the Timberwolves are up by 5 in the third quarter, right? You're thinking, oh, San Antonio's called a timeout. That means that Minnesota's about to go on a run. And then in less than 2 minutes, that 5-point lead in the Timberwolves' favor then turns into a 20-point deficit because the San Antonio Spurs just flipped a switch. That is what I mean. There are very few teams that can flip a switch. When I'm talking about defensively, they could get stops and turnovers, and they could score at a very quick, efficient level. That is San Antonio. One, defensively, they are one of the most connected defensive teams in the NBA. It also helps when you have a 7-4, 7-5 unanimous defensive player of the year on your team in Victor Wembanyama, who's protecting the rim. But they are a connected defensive team. The switches, the helps, they are really great at defending the perimeter as well. It just is a well-oiled machine, and I understand everyone keeps using experience as the thing about San Antonio. This is where I will say San Antonio might be a different type of team in terms of that they're just ahead of schedule on everything. They have a culture of winning, though. A lot of these other organizations, when we talk about inexperience, it really is the fact that the organization doesn't know how to win and these players don't know how to win just yet. And you can't gain experience unless you go out there and do it. We always say that, but it's like, hey, experience can only be had if you actually go out there and try. And what you were seeing from the San Antonio Spurs is that they really benefited from an inheritance. When I am talking about an inheritance, I'm talking about the Spurs organization that already was a winning organization, a winning culture. You hear about Greg Popovich already always in the facility talking to the guys all the time. You see Manu Ginobili, you see Tim Duncan, you see all these Spurs alum that are always in the facilities with these guys. I think they even said that the Spurs alum have their own locker room, that they go, they work out, and they love just being in the facility with these guys. So they are showing them and talking to them about what this is going to look like, mentoring them. That is an inheritance. Not every team has that, but the Spurs do have that. So even looking into this OKC Thunder series and what we're going to see, where everyone is saying experience, 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 I would say that the Spurs also have something that works in their favor, which is a little bit of being naive about this whole thing. And also because you're naive, you don't really have a fear of what could go wrong or what could go right. You just think everything could go right. But there is a sense of they are being taught what this is going to feel like. What is it going to look like? They won't know, obviously, until they're in it. Easier said than done. But for a lot of these teams, they don't have that luxury of saying that they come from a winning culture, a winning organization where the past players are always there, always talking to the guys, helping them throughout this journey. You don't see that in the NBA. So the Spurs are different. For Minnesota, now listen, some things are about to change in Minnesota. Do I believe that Chris Finch is about to get fired? I don't know. I don't think so. But somebody is leaving. This team cannot stay the same after what we just witnessed. Julius Randle is most likely about to get traded. The bad part about it is he played so bad in this conference semifinals that I don't even think any team is really going to want to pick up the phone for him. There's a conversation about Rudy Gobert as well. I understand Anthony Edwards was injured. He went out there and did the best that he could. Also, too, shout out to Anthony Edwards because having two bad knees really in this series and still being able to put up the points he was putting up without his athleticism and burst says a lot about the pure skill that he has as a player. He was asked about, do they need another superstar to come on the team? He said, nah, I feel like we good. Y'all are not good, Ant. You got to get you another scorer. You cannot go through the playoffs again not having a consistent, aggressive number 2 scorer, and that cannot be Julius Randle. You've tried it. It didn't work. So you got to go get you one. If I am that Timberwolves front office, you got to get Ant some help. You got to get a point guard. That's another thing. Anthony Edwards is a shooting guard. And I think a lot of times they want him to be the point guard when really all Ant needs to focus on is scoring. I don't think he has matured his playmaking ability just yet, but him scoring, obviously that's a never issue. Go get you a point guard, a veteran point guard, and I think you got to talk about trading Julius Randle. They have the core of what they need to be successful. It sucks that Dante DiVincenzo also is hurt, will most likely be out for a lot of time next year, but they have Jaden McDaniels, they have Naz Reid, they have a young bench that they could continue to develop. But if I am the Timberwolves, you understand that the West is only going to get harder. You are competing with OKC and San Antonio just lapped you, and this is their first playoff run in a long time. So that shows that, hey, you might think you have time, but you don't. You need to address your weaknesses quickly and efficiently this offseason. Do not play around. Do not try to figure it out. No, go get what you need. Anthony Edwards also said that he felt as though they didn't build championship habits in the season. I don't like hearing stuff like that from a team like the Timberwolves because I'm like, you've been through the playoffs before. We can't keep using the certain things that you aren't doing. Why are there not championship habits in the regular season? You have Naz Reid saying, I feel like with the other teams that you're seeing, they play for each other. We had a lot of moodiness on the team. And I'm like, wait a minute, moodiness? This team has been together. So if we're still talking about playing for each other now, moodiness, championship habits now, we got bigger problems then. That's a leadership problem. That's a culture problem. There are other things that need to be talked about then. I don't think that is a diss on Anthony Edwards or anything like that. I think Ant still has to grow and evolve in his leadership role of what it is going to look like for Minnesota to get to where they want to get, which is a NBA Finals. You've been to a Western Conference Finals, but we've seen your peers lap you. It's not because he's not playing well, but he is limited at a certain point. Teams go far. Individuals could get you pretty far, but teams go very far. And what we are seeing right now in the West is that there's two teams that are a well-oiled machine, that being the Thunder and the Spurs. And Minnesota's like right outside that bubble. But I expect a lot of changes from them, especially with this front office being very proactive and reactive for what this is going to look like, because this summer for the Timberwolves will decide their future. On the other side of the conference semifinals, in the East, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers facing off against the Detroit Pistons. The Cavs won in 7 games. Now listen, I picked the Cavs to win this series at the beginning of this series simply because they had more scores. That was my biggest concern for the Pistons. Not that I just trust the Cavaliers, because to me personally, I think defensively they lack a lot of things still in terms of discipline and getting stops. They still have a turnover problem. And I don't think their offense is that intricate either, but I understand that they have scores. I understand that Donovan Mitchell is a walking 30 piece whenever he wants to be. I understand that when he is a willing participant in playmaking, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley get involved, Sam Merrill gets involved, Max Strus gets involved, James Harden gets involved, as long as he's not turning over the ball. When I look at the Detroit Pistons, there's one guy that I look at that can score, and eventually that wears down on a series. That is what happened in Game 7. The Detroit Pistons simply ran out of gas. They had no more left in the tank. That is not saying that the Pistons are a bad team. That is not saying that there's a problem that you got to ship people away. It's just the truth. Cade Cunningham was their only scorer, their only person able to score. You get one appearance from Jalen Duren in Game 6. That's still not enough. Eventually, a series will wear you down. It will wear your best player down. That is what we saw. Cade Cunningham had 13 points in Game 7. Jenkins had 17 points. Jalen Duren had 7. LeVert, 11. Sasser, 9. Duncan Robinson, 13. Tobias Harris, 5 points. They simply ran out of gas. And this is exactly why I sat there and I said during this series that this series really proved to me that there was a contender gap. And hear me when I say this, because a lot of Pistons fans got mad at me. A lot of Cavs fans got mad at me. Hear me. Watching that series, I said to myself, oh, neither one of these teams are there just yet being able to win a championship this year. Everybody got upset. I guess I can understand that if you're a fan, somebody saying that your team's not going to win this year would be very hurtful. I can understand that. I can sympathize with that. This is the thing, though. It's the truth. And the reason I said it was because on one side of the coin, the Cavs are still trying to figure things out. This is still a new team. When I hear James Harden say in this series, we're still a new team, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work out. That's not, what new team do you know wins a finals? That's not, no, chemistry is a big deal. Having connectivity is a big deal. No, they're not winning it this year. They, again, still have a turnover problem. James Harden had 9 points in Game 7. That should tell you how many other scores that they had. Donovan Mitchell having 26. Sam Merrill had 23. Jared Allen had about 23. And then you got Evan Mobley with 21 and 12. That's how much scoring that they have, that James Harden can have 9 points in a Game 7 and they could still win that game by 30-something points. Blowout win. When I'm looking at the Detroit Pistons, it's the other side of the coin. They're just young, and there's some things that they need to fix. They remind me so much of the OKC Thunder that year that they lost to the Dallas Mavericks. And the year after, look what happens, right? They end up winning it all. They had to change and address a few things, though. They had to go get some veteran help, somebody who could teach them how to win. They went and got Alex Caruso in that trade. Big deal. I look at the Pistons and I say the same thing. You got to go get you a vet this offseason who can really be able to affect winning. They talked about the chemistry of this team and how close they are, and I think that is so important. Jalen Duren lost some money, but for the Pistons front office, it kind of works out because you could get him at a cheaper price now after the performance he just had. It was bad. So he's not getting that super max. I'd be very surprised if he got that max. That's not happening anymore, which is a good thing for them. Take that money. You got to go get you another scorer. The Pistons are going through the same thing the Minnesota Timberwolves are going through, which is you have your superstar in Cade Cunningham. You got to get you a reliable second option who can score and who can create their own shot. You cannot go through another season not having that. They have the bench as well. For some reason in this series, JB Bickerstaff abandoned a lot of his rotations and waited till like the last second to finally hit the emergency glass to go play all these guys, to play Sasser, to give Paul Reed more minutes. When all these guys are available to you in the regular season, why would you abandon it in the playoffs? I know we talk about matchups and rotations and all that, but if you have a 10-man rotation, keep your 10-man rotation. You do not have to cut that down to 8 in the playoffs. If you have the luxury of being able to play 10 guys, play your 10 guys. The reason all these other teams are playing 8 or 7 guys is because they don't have that luxury of 10. And I felt as though the Pistons had more players that they could have played throughout the playoffs and in this series instead of waiting until the last 2 games to finally unleash them. So if you're the Pistons, you go get you another scorer. You got to. That's a non-negotiable. Asar Thompson, one of the best defensive players I have seen, truly. You have to get a consistent jump shot. He has to be able to hit those corner threes, has to be able to hit those mid-range shots. They're leaving you open for a reason. That is a problem. You need to be able to contribute offensively. If he can do that, it raises them immediately. But they have to fix the things that we saw in this series. And I say this to fans, Pistons fans, Cavaliers fans. I think because we live in a hot take culture, it has programmed everyone's brain to hear everything as either you're for a team or you're against a team. I am not for or against a team. I can give honest analysis and criticism. For some reason, when I talked about the Pistons a lot on social media, fans would get upset. Well, you said this about us in the Magic series. What I said about y'all in the Magic series was honest criticism when you were down 3-1. What positive is there to say about being down 3-1? Even though I picked the Pistons to win round one, even when they were down. You have to understand that just because somebody is saying something honest about your team, honest critiques, honest criticism, that does not mean that they hate your team or they are against your team. They are telling you exactly what they see, because sometimes when you're a fan, you can't really see it. You are living in delusional hope, but other people might sit there and say, ooh, I kind of see how this is going here. I see the writing on the wall here. Understand that. I am here to give fair analysis and criticism. I am not here to be on one side of the coin. Again, I think hot take culture has reprogrammed fans' brains. And when somebody's trying to give you a very unbiased take, you still only hear it one way or the other. And that is not the case. As I said, that there is a contender gap between the Cavs and the Pistons and these other teams. And I stand on that. And I was right about the Pistons. They didn't win this year. I still feel like I might be right about the Cavs, but I am okay if I am wrong, which I said. I'm okay with being wrong about my picks. I've been wrong about picks. I've been wrong about certain analysis that I've seen. I was wrong about the New York Knicks. Y'all know I just said that last week. And I've been impressed with them. And I'm able to sit there and say, ooh, okay, I see it now. I see that they're peaking and they have a rhythm and momentum. I also could look at the Cavaliers and say, a new team usually can't really go that far just yet, especially when you start playing a team that's been together a little bit longer. I see that and I know that. And I could look at the Pistons and say, there's still some holes in this young team. They look very similar to OKC the year before they won. They just need to be able to go in the offseason, attack it aggressively, fix what they need to fix, and they'll be right back where they need to be. Boom. That is honest analysis and criticisms and critiques while also giving hope. So understand, for the Detroit Pistons, they will be okay as long as they address the things that they got to address this offseason. They are in that championship window. They are right there. Just have some things to improve. But now we're going to talk about what we're going to look forward to in the conference finals in the West and in the East. The Spurs Thunder series is going to be one of those series that the smallest margin is going to dictate a game. It's going to be turnovers. It's going to be free throws. It's going to be who cannot be in foul trouble. Can you respond to runs in a timely manner? The tiniest details. I think this is where the bench play is going to have to come into big play for both teams, because that's where you tip the scale of a game, right? Whose bench can produce more? Whose bench can get stops? And when your stars are not on the floor, what does that look like? But it is the tiniest detail for both these teams. They're both so disciplined. They both have deep benches. They have the depth. They have great coaches. They understand their roles on the team, who the 1, 2, and 3 is. There are so many similarities to this team. The only difference is that OKC has a 2-time MVP on their roster and they have a championship to their name. That is championship experience that they have that the Spurs do not have. When I am looking at this series, specifically for OKC, what worked out for them is one, that Jalen Williams didn't have to play almost 2 series because of the hamstring strain. And that's a luxury to have, that your second best player doesn't really have to play or come back so fast, because your team is that good that you could sweep 2 teams without him, and now he is available for game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. But what happened for the OKC Thunder that worked out is that AJ Mitchell got really meaningful minutes in the time that J-Dub was not available, and that is going to pay dividends in this series. A lot of times we've been talking about Dylan Harper for the Spurs, which everyone's been so shocked, and him coming off the bench, number 2 overall pick in the draft. But Dylan Harper is so good for the Spurs that when he comes off the bench, he immediately has impact. He's able to score. He's able to tip a scale of a game for them in those runs where, say, Wemby's not on the floor, De'Aaron Fox isn't on the floor, while he can also play alongside Wemby or Stephon Castle. When I look at the Thunder, it's kind of the same thing. They also have Jared McCain, who can come in a game and also flip a game simply because of his three-point shooting ability. There are little wrinkles that both teams have that it really impresses me how similar they are, that you really can't even sit there and say that one team is just overly glaringly better than the other. It is the tiniest detail. For this series, it is going to come down to shooting threes. I understand that a lot of times we hate to say that, like, oh, the shooting three era and all they want to do is jack up threes. They're going to have to make threes in this series. For the Spurs specifically that I'm looking at, that they're going to have to be able to match or exceed the made threes. I am not sitting here and saying that they need to shoot a ton of threes. What I am saying is that they need to be efficient and accurate threes, running those plays for Vassell to get open and also getting Champagnie out there to also be able to contribute to that, because the OKC Thunder have three-point shooters. That really is specifically what they went and got Jared McCain for. And you see how dangerous he is when he comes out there off the bench, being able to provide three-point shooting ability. So if you're the Spurs, you got to keep the game close by being able to match the three-point shooting that they have. Also, they're going to feed Wemby, right? This is going to be a battle of Wemby versus Chet. And I do give that battle to Wemby. I think Wemby is a little bit more aggressive. I think he understands his post moves way more. I think he's also getting comfortable being in the playmaker role even more in this playoff run. That is not to say that Chet is just going to sit there and have a horrible series, but that is one matchup that I think is really going to decide either quarters or literally the game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to go out there and do what he does. But if what we saw in the Lakers series gives some hope for the Spurs, it's that if you could defensively be sound in defending SGA, you can limit him. And we saw the Lakers defense was able to really make it hard for him throughout that series, despite the fact that they got swept. 3 of those games, SGA didn't play to his standard, but he was still able to play make, and they had so much other talent that it wasn't an issue. But when you go into this series against a really good defensive team, that will be an issue. I think there are weaknesses to both teams, right? And I think there are flaws to both teams. I don't think OKC is perfect, and I don't think San Antonio is perfect, but I do give the edge in terms of defense to San Antonio. I think offensively, OKC has a really high-powered offense, and I like how they get out and run in transition. I like how they understand what they're trying to get, especially in certain moments in the game. I love their rotations. I think Mark Dagnall has done an amazing job in his rotations. He's not a coach that panics, and I can respect that. He's not going to change his philosophies. He's not going to change what he sees. Obviously, minutes might be different for certain players in a series, but he still trusts his rotations despite that fact, and I really admire that, where I think the depth of OKC is a little bit better than the Spurs, because I'm looking at, you have Jalen Williams who could come off the bench, Isaiah Joe. You have so many guys that could literally come off the bench and give you such impact so quickly that I think that is a little bit more in OKC's favor than San Antonio. If you're San Antonio, it's relying on your defense, being able to get those threes, and allowing Wemby to win his matchup. De'Aaron Fox is also going to have to show up big in this series. He cannot have a slow start like he had in the last series. That just is not going to work. It's not going to be acceptable. He has to be able to win his matchup. He is going to be one of the fastest players on the floor. Being able to be decisive and efficient in what he wants to do will set the tone in this first game. Good thing for the OKC Thunder, they have home court advantage because they are the number 1 overall seed. So this is going to be a loud environment for San Antonio. It's going to be a battle. If you are San Antonio, can you go and win game 1 and try to take control of this series? If you're OKC, they've had a little bit more rest. I don't think that's going to be a big factor in this game 1, honestly. But obviously, San Antonio is also in a rhythm right now. They're feeling a lot of good confidence in what they were able to do against Minnesota. That's going to really be able to show itself in this game 1. But this is where experience might come into play for San Antonio and OKC, where they haven't been to this situation before. But sometimes the best thing about being in situations that you've never been in, you literally don't know what you don't know, and it can work in your favor. So I am excited. I'm excited to see the pace of this game as well. If you're OKC, I would want the pace to be fast. If you're San Antonio, I would want the pace to possibly be slow, and it depends on the personnel that is out there. I think San Antonio likes to get out and run, and they like to get out in transition, but at times I think they do like to thrive in their half-court offense in terms of getting Wemby involved, where I can see OKC being able to get out and run and push pace a little bit and really trusting what they have in their guards to be able to really catch San Antonio off guard. When you have such a great defense that San Antonio has, if you're OKC, you can't sit there and allow them to get set in their defense. You want them to keep going. You want them to be out of position. Whereas if you're San Antonio, I could kind of live with OKC's defense. That's not me saying that their defense is bad. Jalen Williams coming back is a big factor also. He's one of their best perimeter defenders. But I think you can live with a little bit more of them being set than OKC can with San Antonio. This series is going to be amazing. This series is going to show us the stars got to show up. Wemby has to show up. SGA has to show up. Jalen Williams has to show up. De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. Everybody has to show up in this series. And the biggest question will be who off the bench is going to be the guy. I do believe that for San Antonio, it's going to be Dylan Harper. I think this is going to be a big series for him. And then I also look at OKC's bench, and I'm looking at Jared McCain. I think Jared McCain can really provide some really special resources, and also AJ Mitchell. So this series, it's going to come to the smallest details. Get your popcorn ready. It's about to be amazing. While we're talking about the Western Conference Finals, and we understand what kind of battle that's about to be, let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals with the Knicks and the Cavaliers. I am not here to say that I believe that the Knicks are just this amazing team and that they're just gonna sweep the Cavaliers. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I believe in a team peaking at the right time. I believe in momentum. I believe in seeing it in a team, and that's what we are seeing from the Knicks. It does not matter if you don't believe the Knicks have played tough competition, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier in this episode, there were a lot of teams that we thought could beat the Knicks. A lot of people thought the Hawks could beat the Knicks. A lot of people picked the 76ers to beat the Knicks. I mean, if Boston would have beat the 76ers, a lot of people would have said that Boston would have beat the Knicks. I mean, everybody has been able to beat the Knicks, but nobody's beaten the Knicks. So you have to give the Knicks some credit, even if you're not a full believer. Like I said, there are things about the Knicks that still scare me. There are things about the Knicks that I still worry about, but I trust what I see from them right now, which is presently they are a problem. And the problem does come from the fact that there are a few things that I think that they fixed after that first round against the Hawks. Karl Anthony Towns is playing some of the best basketball I think he's played in the playoffs in a really long time. He's playing aggressive. He's playing in the paint. He's calling for the ball. He's hitting open threes. He's being efficient, but it is his ability to play make. Mike Brown, I think, has unlocked something in Cat, which you see how much you trust him in this offense. An offense where you might would put all your trust in Jalen Brunson. You see that they've now put a lot more trust in Cat, and that is his ability to play make and play make for others. When you have a center who can play make for others while also being aggressive, also being able to go out there and give you points, give you rebound, and give you defense, that is scary. And that is what we are seeing from the Knicks. If you were the Cavaliers, they also can match size. They have Jared Allen. They have Evan Mobley. Can both of them or one of them be able to slow down the playmaking ability of Karl Anthony Towns? That, I think, would be the responsibility of Evan Mobley. This is where I say Cat has to continue to play aggressive, because if Cat continues to do what he does best and what he's been doing, which is playing a little bit of bully ball in the paint, but also being okay coming out of the paint, being able to play make and also pop out to the three, will you take advantage of that matchup? That's going to be a hard matchup for Evan Mobley, I think, just because there's a little bit of size advantage on Cat's side, but that's if Cat continues to be aggressive. If we get a Karl Anthony Towns that reverts back to old habits, then it's just going to mess up the whole game plan. The other thing about Jalen Brunson that I give a lot of credit to in this series that we've seen so far is that he is coming off of the ball more. The ball's not sticking to his hands. I think a lot of times Jalen Brunson would just dribble the life out of the ball, try to get his own shot, step back three, a contested two. I think what I've seen now in two series, and specifically the 76ers series, is a willingness to want to get the ball out of his hands and really allowing that to be the thing that really gets the offense going. It's just the ball's not sticking. And I think that was a big deal with the Knicks. It would just stick to one person, which would usually be Jalen Brunson. They're now passing the ball. The offense is moving. Mikal Bridges has finally popped up to the party. I thought he had a better 76ers series than that Hawks series. Being able to add some offensive scoring to this team is a big deal. You got Josh Hart. You know what you're always going to get from him. And then you have OG Anunoby, who ended up getting hurt towards the end of that 76ers series. But because they handled business so fast, he's been able to heal up for the last week, which is a big deal. But they are in a rhythm and a momentum. I wonder, will the rest that they've had, which has been almost a week, will that be something that slows them down in this game one? But they do have home court advantage in this series, and Madison Square Garden is about to be rocking. So that's going to be a big factor. Mike Brown, I applaud him for the rotations. I was very critical of the Knicks in that Hawks series, and I felt like Mike Brown really went back to his philosophies. He went back to what he believed about this team. Deuce McBride getting way more minutes, being able to really utilize his bench. I said it already, a lot of these teams, they have a luxury of a deep bench that they can use and be able to have relief for their stars, but also get some things going. And the Knicks are one of those teams that also have a bench that they could use. And I like that Mike Brown adjusted after that Hawks series when they were down. I like that he said, I have Deuce McBride. I have these guys that I can use, and has been able to work out in their favor. Offensively, I give it to the Knicks just because of how well that they've been playing. I know everyone wants to say the Cavs have this great offense, and they do. They have scores, but the Cavs are also very inconsistent, and I say it all the time. They are a turnover team. And if James Harden is going to turn the ball over, or if he's going to be the playmaker, is he going to score? This is one of those series where he has to show up. He has to be able to perform consistently. You can't have another 9-point game, and just because everybody else is able to play good, that's going to be enough. The Knicks are a tough opponent if they are still with the same momentum that we just saw in the previous series. Now, I am looking at matchups defensively. That's where I might give the Cavs just a little bit more room because they have a little bit more size that I think that can disrupt. But I am looking at their guards, and I'm looking and saying to myself, who's going to be able to really guard Jalen Brunson? Who's going to be able to guard OG Anunoby? I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about, will the Cavs get in foul trouble because of how Jalen Brunson plays? He's a guard who knows how to draw fouls. He's going to be aggressive going to the paint. What does this look like on Josh Hart? What does it look like on Mikal Bridges? Those are matchup problems that I can see for the Cavs. Defensively, I don't think the Cavs are that great of a team. I think a lot of times they're not very disciplined on defense, where I can see the New York Knicks exploiting that, getting out and running in transition, getting up and down the floor, really allowing their offense to pop. And that's what we saw in the previous series. I do believe that matchup wise, a lot of people want to say they believe it's in the Cavs' favor, but I think I'm looking at the Knicks and I'm saying to myself that there's a lot more favor in the matchups that they can exploit than I think the Cavs can exploit. And a lot of that is really going to be contingent upon Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, and can they both get going at the same time? This is a series where one cannot have a good night and the other have an off night. They're both going to have consistent good nights, especially to be able to have first to four. But I am looking at the coaching battle as well. This is going to be an adjustment game, and I can sit there and say Mike Brown has adjusted. Can I say the same thing about Kenny Atkinson? I'm interested to see what he's going to do defensively on the Knicks, and that is going to really show us a lot in that game one because you want to double Jalen Brunson, obviously. You want to get the ball out of his hands as quick as possible. You want to put pressure on Cat, and you want others to be able to score. Where I can see that might be the strategy. Have somebody else beat us other than Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, but that's a little scary because if OG Anunoby is going and he's attacking the basket, if Josh Hart is going and you get somebody off that bench that can give really good solid minutes, you might be in a problem. But I would expect the Cavs, that's going to be number one. Get Jalen Brunson off the ball as soon as possible, put pressure on Cat, make somebody else try to beat us. And if you're the New York Knicks, you're looking at James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. You can sit there and live with Donovan Mitchell going for 30, 40 points. He's had that before and still lost games. But you're sitting there and you're looking at James Harden and saying, okay, let's just make sure he doesn't also get going. If we could get him into a turnover issue, if we can stop them from playmaking at the basket. That's what we saw from the Cavs in Game 7 against the Pistons. Donovan Mitchell was a playmaker, a willing playmaker for Jared Allen and Evan Mobley early in that game, and it set the tone. He put so much pressure on the rim, and because of the gravity of who he is as a player, it made Detroit have to play him so aggressive and up that they really abandoned their assignments with the other two bigs. So I expect that the Cavs are going to try to keep feeding their bigs and trying to get them involved. And that is a thing. The Knicks foul. They are a team that can really rack up fouls very quickly. We know that about Karl Anthony Towns as well. So can you put Cat in foul trouble? Can you put pressure on the rim? I expect to see that from the Cavs, but I'm excited to see defensively what they're going to do to really put pressure on the Knicks. This series is going to be good. I still believe that there is a contender gap. I still stand by what I believe about the Cavs, but I'm not going to sit here and act like they can't score. They have scores. They have the ability to do that. All this is going to come down to for the Cavs is turnovers and defense. Can you get stops and can you limit the turnovers? And if you're the Knicks, you control your destiny. If the Knicks do not win this series, this season is a failure. You have now reached the Eastern Conference Finals. You have to win. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Either the Knicks are about to revert back to old habits and fall off a cliff, and they're about to go back to playing like the Knicks we saw at the beginning of the first round, or they're going to continue to play like the New York Knicks we've been seeing thus far that just sweeped the Philadelphia 76ers. It is going to be a great series, an interesting series. I see it going at least 5 to 6 games. I don't necessarily see 7 games in this series. I could be wrong, but I think that this series will be over in 5 to 6 games. I'm excited to see what both teams are about to show us in the Eastern Conference Finals. We all been saying that we think the winners in the West, but we might watch this Eastern Conference Finals and say, hey, maybe there's a team in the East that can compete with whoever comes out of the West. So get ready for that. It's going to be great. Make sure to call in and let me know what you think about the conference finals. Who do you think I was right about? Who do you think I was wrong about? It is speakpipe.com/the Lachelle Show. I want to hear what your thoughts are on some of the predictions I made, the analysis, and what you were thinking about Minnesota and Detroit making offseason moves. I want to hear everything you have to say about the NBA playoffs. This was another week of the Lachelle Show. I thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives, your day, your schedules to listen to me. If you listen to me in your car, during your workout, while you're running errands, I am so appreciative. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I am on all platforms that you get your podcast from: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen, I am there. Make sure to tell your friends and share it with your friends. We want to have as many people come to listen to the Lachelle Show, especially with everything revving up in the NBA right now and everything that's about to be happening in the NFL, college football. There's a lot of sports going on, and we got to be able to talk about it, and I want to talk about it with you guys. So I thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this week's episode. Make sure to leave me a voicemail for the caller hotline. You know how much I love the hotline, and I want to hear from you guys. Speakpipe.com/the Lachelle Show. Make sure to leave me a hot take, a question, an opinion, or if you want to debate something that I said in the podcast, or you want to elaborate more, I'm cool with that. All is fair, and I want to hear from you guys. So again, thank you guys so much, and you will be hearing from me next week.